After a degenerate grind of serving up some ice-cold liberty, I've gotten a ton of questions about Helldivers 2, so we'll be going over everything you need to know, including a bunch of the controversies, but if you feel like I miss anything that you think needs to be talked about, just let me know down below, and make sure you join my community Discord to keep up to date with everything. For now, though, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're lighting this off with game stability and performance because it's the thing I got asked the most about, and with Gameguard, that was no real surprise. It's had a bad reputation as the worst anti-cheat for a very long time, and it's also the cheapest anti-cheat, and it's almost all of the negative reviews for the game by itself. It doesn't take a lot of searching to see how many people have had problems with it in the past, and it will be the main reason behind random crashes and FPS stuttering in the future, because that's what it's been known to do before. It's also labeled as a rootkit anti-cheat, which doesn't sit well with anyone, and because of its past, I think it was a massive mistake for them to go with Gameguard. I will personally keep pushing for them to change it in the future because I see a lot of potential in the core game itself. So I did try opening everything that I could think of on my PC to see if I would get a false positive shutdown by it, but I couldn't trigger it. As for crashing, I've had 7 in 28 hours of playing. 4 of my crashes were on tier 9 difficulty, but the rest seemed fairly random, and I've had 3 load hangs that I've had to Alt F4, and I only experienced FPS drops when there was too much moderated democracy happening. Outside of that, things did seem pretty okay. And reconnecting to my friends' missions when I did crash worked pretty seamlessly. I'm just not sure what you would do if you were playing with random people, but to my surprise, they are actively working on fixing all these problems and gotten quite a bit done already. We've seen a ton of games in the last 10 years just abandoned right after launch, but so far it looks like they want to have a really fun, functional game for us. Now on startup, Gameguard does run my CPU pretty hard in a comparable way to Design Code. If you play Black Desert online, you know what I'm talking about, but if not, you just need to let your game run for like 5 minutes and it'll calm down. This was exactly the same on both of my computers and for everybody that I've played with so far that I asked. Both my PC specs are on screen right now, and on my main PC, temps and performance were very stable the entire time I was playing while streaming from the same PC. The 7700K build ran pretty well on the lowest settings with a few dips when crazy thing happened, but like nothing too unplayable. It did struggle when I turned the graphics up even to medium though, so that's just something to keep in mind. And my friend on his AMD rig had stable performance with almost no temperature issues after running the game for about 5 minutes. All 3 of these PCs are on AIO, so keep that in mind, but I personally haven't experienced temperature problems yet, and the people I played with haven't either. If you are worried about it, just run the game on lower settings and you should be fine. And if you do experience a false positive from Gameguard or problems with it, just write it down below in the comments or at me in the Helldivers 2 channel in my Discord with it, and I'll put a list together to send to a CM because it's important that issues like this get addressed and talked about early. I'll also note that I'm not partnered with Arrowhead Studios, but I always try to put together feedback forms for my community with every game that I play as a thank you for supporting me, so that way you're not screaming into the void alone, at least I'm screaming with you. Now next up is the cash shop, and I know a lot of people were up in arms over it, so let's take a look at it. For starters, I already earned 1,030 super credits. This is the premium currency for the game, and it's important to note that you can only buy skins and pages of Warbonds, which is supposed to be their version of a battle pass, but they never go away, so there's no FOMO rush to get it before it's gone. I guess maybe if you join the game at a later date, you might want to buy one, but the cash shop is also extremely cheap, and mine's even in Monopoly money. But you can also earn enough super credits for free to unlock everything. In 28 hours of grinding, I've gotten 480 randomly picked up from the maps. So I think with casual gameplay of like 2 hours a night in a month, you'll easily have enough for a new Warbond for free. You also can't pay real money to bypass any sort of grinding. You need to use medals to unlock everything inside of a Warbond. Each page has an amount of medals that you have to spend to get to the next tier, and the only way to get medals is by playing the game. And the hardest difficulty does start giving out quite a few of them, so I can't really see this being a problem long term. This game really rewards you heavily for exploring the map, and just by running around doing side objectives, you get more of every resource you need. So each new Warbond that comes out is supposed to also be themed in the future as well, so honestly, we'll just see how that goes. But I think what I like most about this system is that if you're grinding hard now, but quit and come back in a year, whatever you earned won't feel wasted, at least with the current systems. I've also tried a whole bunch of different weapons, but the Breacher Shotgun and Defender SMGs that you get super early into the game are ridiculously strong. So you don't need anything from the premium Warbond to do anything, but I do know people were also worried about armor being pay to win. So it's broken down into light, medium, and heavy, but only the chest piece has armor and passive values on it, and all of those passive values are on screen right now. They're all fairly easy to get for free, so the premium versions will just be different styles of it, and it'll just come down to how you want to look. And one other thing I got asked quite a bit about was boosters. These don't get consumed when you use them. They're just like a bonus for your team that like only one person can bring. They're just there, right? I don't really know how else to explain them. They're just kind of like an extra passive buff. But I think it's just important to know that there's no pay to win in any way, shape, or form, at least right now with the launch of the game. These things that people are like blowing out of proportions to say that they are pay to win, like you can all earn them for free. So maybe pay to progress would be the better word, but you can't even really progress. I think it's more of just a generally like if someone pays, they lose kind of situation. And honestly, this is one of the least aggressive monetization schemes I've seen in a while. It's very similar to what Darktide promised with their Aquila system, but backpedaled on, and they never gave us the ability to unlock premium currency for free. So I think Helldivers 2 hit a really good balance from what I've seen so far, and these shops are in every game now, so I'm just happy to see one done decently for the first time in a while, and I think this might be the new standard for premium shops if they want to be looked at positively. And now that we're done talking about the more controversial stuff, I have to talk about how amazing this game feels to play. This is easily one of the most fun and cinematic horde shooters ever created. It has a really campy feeling to it, and at no stage does it take itself seriously at all. It's basically just like a really funny meme game with so many ridiculous moments where you're running screaming from enemies because the situations just get out of control super fast. And after grinding really hard, movement, teamwork, and stratagems to counter the missions will be the key to success. The mission we did had 2 debuffs, which was -1 stratagem and stratagem scramble, and the scramble makes it so you have a chance to call it the wrong strat, and it just turns the game into absolute chaos. We're like throwing airplane strikes on ourselves and everything. It was a complete disaster. But we ended up getting through it, and I haven't had this much fun on the hardest mode in a game in a really long time. And one thing that has me more excited than anything else is the procedurally generated maps with such a massive solar system, so you can change your enemy or planet whenever you want. I really do think this is going to give a solid long-term endgame experience that's focused on team play, which is really important to me because Darktide is where I'm coming from, and after grinding Orc Maelstrom pretty much exclusively since it came out, which is the game's hardest difficulty, it just got boring because it's on the same maps with no variance over and over again, so you have to like run meme builds to challenge yourself. So having the choice to go do random objectives and being pushed to explore for upgrade resources ends up forcing you into more engagements and different obstacles, and the different POIs reward you with more than just resources, because if you go out of your way for them, things like the SAM site on the robot planet will shoot dropships out of the sky for you. And the nice part is, if you don't feel like doing anything extra, you can just W key the main objectives and speed run the mission. I really think that having the variance of it being rewarding as you want it to be at the cost of how challenging you want the mission to be completely hits the mark for me. And as you go to different planets, your big ass ship comes with you. This is what you need to collect all those samples and random currencies for. Unlocking them in here has a drastic effect on your missions, and the ship itself changes as you upgrade it cosmetically. So if you get the big ass guns, you can actually see them on your ship, and you can see the ship shooting down from orbit when you call in the stratagems. Like, I know the laser isn't attached to the ship on this one, but at least it's funny. So this really is the most important part of progressing towards the end game of Helldivers 2, and honestly, I don't think you should sleep on exploring as much as possible to get everything you can early. The green samples are the true end game. Trust me now, don't skip a single one. That they're worth absolutely running it down for. Now, the devs also did talk about how this galaxy map evolves. So similar to Dungeons & Dragons, apparently they have game masters that can alter the way the enemies move around the galaxy. So as we take over more planets, they might try and flank us or stop us head on. And we have to react to that and keep our progress bars maxed so we can continue to spread managed democracy. And this mission map is probably the most interesting part of the game for me. I really love being able to target the thing that I feel like doing, but I do have a few problems with the game, and the first is not having preset loadouts. So even though it's really easy to set everything up before the mission, you end up running the same thing most of the time anyway, so it feels like wasted steps, and having preset loadouts than just swapping one or two things out would give a way better game feel. And I can tell not having multiple presets that I can quickly swap through will annoy me the more I progress into the game, as I already went through this growing pain before. And I know most people will start feeling the same way as me a lot sooner than later. But the flat out worst part of the entire game is the reward screen. You can't skip through it at all, and the more missions you complete, the more annoying it gets. And these problems really aren't that big, they're just extreme quality of life. So overall, my first impression is that the game is amazingly well made, and the gameplay is extremely solid and cinematic, and it's just a fun game. Everybody I've talked to loves the gameplay, and it's basically everything I wanted Starship Troopers Extermination to be. It's just insanely frustrating that they went with Gameguard. This dumpster fire will be the main thing that holds the game back, so if you do really love the game, make sure you voice how bad Gameguard is so they wake up and just find a better option. Either way, I hope you guys are enjoying Helldivers 2 as much as I am. I'll be playing a lot more in the coming weeks, so if you want to keep up to date with what I'm doing, just join my community Discord. It's where I announce everything first, including all of my best builds. It's also a great place to find people to play with because freedom never sleeps.
There's a swarm everywhere.
Engaging terminal. Approaching pickup.
Bro, you're
Yeah, let's go!
You're in front of them, dude.
Fuck
Ow.
you!
Preparing for touchdown.
That's the nuclear dick that fucks all your robot mothers for freedom.